Alright. I think I'm live. Sitting here talking like a weirdo. Humming. Yeah. Alright. We're live. I didn't even realize I was sitting here humming. Oh, so funny. Got to promote it a little bit. Let's see. Got to get a good picture. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, so for those of you that are watching this later, the whole point of this is essentially I run an AI agency. And so the whole point is for me to learn AI better so that I am more equipped and better understanding of what AI is and how to use it. So yeah, that's the goal of this all. All right. Let us hop into it. So let me go ahead and share screen. Yeah, we're going to start with this. I will add the links to all of these videos. Actually, you know, something I need to do really quick is add, apologies for this was the first one I've done of these, so gotta add the monitor audio. Bum 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 bum. Just unmute that. I think we'll be cracking.
Model or an LLM that can.
I believe the audio is coming here actually to my mic. Let me go. This is unprofessional, but let me go grab a quick headset and I can actually do this professionally. All right, plug this sucker in. All right. Now I believe should be working. Believe so, at least. Let me test this.
Generate human-like text. And I've been using GPT in its various forms for years. In this video, we are going to, number one,
the audio levels
ask
correct.
what is an LLM.
All right, let's do
Number
this.
two, we are going to describe how they work. And then number three, we're going to ask what are the
Take notes,
business
possibly,
applications
maybe.
of LLMs. So let's start with number one. What is a large language model? Well, a large language model is an instance of something else called a foundation model.
Nerd things.
Now, foundation models are pre-trained on large amounts of unlabeled and self-supervised data, meaning the model learns from patterns in the data in a way that produces generalizable and adaptable output. And large language models are instances of foundation models applied specifically to text and text-like things. I'm talking about things like code. Now, large language models are trained on large data sets of text, such as books, articles, and conversations. And look, when
Yeah,
we
I'm
say
a little nerd.
large,
You're right.
these models can be tens of gigabytes in size and trained on enormous amounts of text data. We're talking potentially petabytes of data here. So to put that into perspective, a text file that is, let's say, 1 gigabyte in size, that can store about 178 million words. A lot of words just in 1 GB. And how many gigabytes are in a petabyte? Well, it's about 1 million. Yeah, that's truly a lot of text. Now, LLMs are also among the biggest models when it comes to parameter count. A parameter is a value the model can change independently as it learns, and the more parameters a model has, the more complex it can be. GPT-3, for example, is pre-trained on a corpus of actually 45 terabytes of data. And it uses 175 billion ML parameters. All right, so how do they work? Well, we can think of it like this. LLM equals three things: data, architecture, and lastly, we can think of it as training. Those three things are really the components of an LLM. Now,
There's a
we've
weird
already
G.
discussed the enormous
G?
amounts of text
Kinda
data that goes into these things. As for the architecture, this is a neural network, and for GPT, that is a transformer. And the transformer architecture enables the model to handle sequences of
What's
data,
this guy?
like
What?
sentences or lines of
right on
code.
my
And
screen,
transformers
like
are
in front of
designed
him. This
to
guy's
understand
weird.
the context of each word in a sentence
even sure
by
how he's doing
considering it in relation to every other word. This allows the model to build a comprehensive understanding of the sentence structure and the meaning of the words within it. And then this architecture is trained on all of this large amount of data. Now, during training, the model learns to predict the next word in a sentence. So the sky is, it starts off with a random guess. The sky is bug. But with each iteration, the model adjusts its internal parameters to reduce the difference between its predictions and the actual outcomes. And the model keeps doing this, gradually improving its word predictions until it can reliably generate coherent sentences. Forget about bug. It can figure out it's blue. Now, the model can be fine-tuned on a smaller, more specific data set. Here, the model refines its understanding to be able to perform this specific task more accurately. Fine-tuning is what allows a general language model to become an expert at a specific task. Okay, so how does this all fit into number 3, business applications? Well, for customer service applications, businesses can use LLMs to create intelligent chatbots that can handle a variety of customer queries, freeing up human agents for more complex issues. Another good field, content creation.
Squeaky
That can
marker,
benefit from LLMs, which can help generate articles, emails, social media posts, and even YouTube video scripts. There's an idea. Now, LLMs can even contribute to software development And they can do that by helping to generate and review code. And look, that's just scratching the surface. As large language models continue to evolve, we're bound to discover more innovative applications. And that's why I'm so enamored with large language models. If you have any questions, please drop us a line below. And if you want to see more videos like
yeah, dude, I want to watch more videos I have saved, not more of yours.
Everybody's talking about artificial intelligence these days, AI. Machine learning is another hot topic. Are they the same thing or are they different? And if so, what are those differences? And deep learning is another one that comes into play. I actually did a video on these three, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, and talked about where they fit. And there were a lot of comments on that, and I read those comments, and I'd like to address some of the most frequently asked questions so that we can clear up some of the myths and misconceptions around this. In addition, something else has happened since that video was recorded, and that is the absolute explosion of this area of generative AI. Things like large language models and chatbots have seemed to be taking over the world. We see them everywhere. Really interesting technology. And then also things like deepfakes. These are all within the realm of AI, but how do they fit within each other? How are they related to each other? We're going to take a look at that in this video and try to explain how all these technologies relate and how we can use them. First off, a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to have to simplify some of these concepts in order to not make this video last for a week. So those of you that are really deep experts in the field, apologies in advance. But we're going to try to make this simple, and that will involve some generalizations. First of all, let's start with AI. Artificial intelligence is basically trying to simulate with a computer something that would match or exceed human intelligence. What is intelligence? Well, it could be a lot of different things, but generally we tend to think of it as the ability to learn, to infer, and to reason, things like that. So that's what we're trying to do in the broad field of AI, of artificial intelligence. And if we look at a timeline of AI, it really kind of started back around this time frame. And in those days, it was very premature. Most people had not even heard of it. It basically was a research project. But I can tell you, as an undergrad, which for me was back during these times, we were doing AI work. In fact, we would use programming languages like Lisp or Prolog, and these kinds of things were kind of the predecessors to what became later expert systems. And this was a technology, again, some of these things existed previous, but that's when it really hit kind of a critical mass and became more popularized. So expert systems of the 1980s, maybe in the 90s, and again, we used technologies like this. All of this was something that we did before we ever touched in to the next topic I'm going to talk about. And that's the area of machine learning. Machine learning is, as its name implies, the machine is learning. I don't have to program it. I give it lots of information and it observes things. So for instance, if I start doing this, if I give you this and then ask you to predict what's the next thing that's going to be there, well, you might get it, you might not. You have very limited training data to base this on. But if I gave you one of those and then ask you what to predict would happen next, well, you're probably going to say this. And then you're going to say it's this. And then you think you got it all figured out. And then you see one of these. And then all of a sudden, I give you one of those and throw you a curveball. So this, in fact, and then maybe it goes on like this. So a machine learning algorithm is really good at looking at patterns and discovering patterns within data. The more training data you can give it, the more confident it can be in predicting. So predictions are one of the things that machine learning is particularly good at. Another thing is spotting outliers like this and saying, oh, that doesn't belong in, it looks different than all the other stuff because the sequence was broken. So that's particularly useful in cybersecurity, the area that I work in, because we're looking for outliers. We're looking for users who are using the system in ways that they shouldn't be or ways that they don't typically do. So this technology, machine learning, is particularly useful for us. And machine learning really came along and became more popularized in this time frame, in the 2010s. And again, back when I was an undergrad riding my dinosaur to class, we were doing this kind of stuff. We never once talked about machine learning. It might have existed, but it really hadn't hit the popular mindset yet. But this technology has matured greatly over the last few decades, and now it becomes the basis of a lot we do going forward. The next layer of our Venn diagram involves deep learning. Well, it's deep learning in the sense that with deep learning, we use these things called neural networks. Neural networks are ways that in a computer we simulate and mimic the way the human brain works, at least to the extent that we understand how the brain works. And it's called deep because we have multiple layers of those neural networks. And the interesting thing about these is they will simulate the way a brain operates, but I don't know if you've noticed, but human brains can be a little bit unpredictable. You put certain things in, you don't always get the very same thing out, and deep learning is the same way. In some cases, we're not actually able to fully understand why we get the results we do because there are so many layers to the neural network, it's a little bit hard to decompose and figure out exactly what's in there. But this has become a very important part and a very important advancement. That also reached some popularity during the 2010s and as something that we use still today as the basis for our next area of AI. The most recent advancements in the field of artificial intelligence all really are in this space, the area of generative AI. Now, I'm going to introduce a term that you may not be familiar with. It's the idea of foundation models. Foundation models is where we get some of these kinds of things. For instance, an example of a foundation model would be a large language model, which is where we take language and we model it. And we make predictions in this technology where if I see certain types of words, then I can sort of predict what the next set of words will be. I'm going to oversimplify here for the sake of simplicity, but think about this as a little bit like the autocomplete. When you start typing something in and then it predicts what your next word will be, except in this case with large language models, they're not predicting the next word, they're predicting the next sentence, the next paragraph, the next entire document. So there's an amazing exponential leap in what these things are able to do. And we call all of these technologies generative because they are generating new content. Some people have actually made the argument that generative AI isn't really generative, that these technologies are really just regurgitating existing information and putting it in different format. Well, let me give you an analogy. If you take music, for instance, then every note has already been invented. So in a sense, every song is just a recombination, some other permutation of all the notes that already exist already, True. And just putting them in a different order. Well, we don't say new music doesn't exist. People are still composing and creating new songs from the existing information. I'm going to say Gen AI is similar. It's an analogy, so there'll be some imperfections in it, but you get the general idea. Actually, new content can be generated out of these. And there are a lot of different forms that this can take. Other types of models are audio models, video models, and things like that. Well, in fact, these we can use to create deepfakes. And deepfakes are examples where we're able to take, for instance, a person's voice and recreate that, and then have it seem like the person said things they never said. Well, it's really useful in entertainment situations, in parodies and things like that, or if someone's losing their voice, then you could capture their voice and then they'd be able to type and you'd be able to hear it in their voice. But there's also a lot of cases where this stuff could be abused. The chatbots, again, come from this space. The deepfakes come from this space. But they're all part of generative AI and all part of these foundation models. And this, again, is the area that has really caused all of us to really pay attention to AI. The possibilities of generating new content, or in some cases summarizing existing content and giving us something that is bite-sized and manageable. This is what has gotten all of the attention. This is where the chatbots and all of these things come in. In the early days, AI's adoption started off pretty slowly. Most people didn't even know it existed, and if they did, it was something that always seemed like it was about 5 to 10 years away. But then machine learning, deep learning, and things like that came along, and we started seeing some uptick. Then foundation models, Gen AI, and the like came along, and this stuff went straight to the moon.
Oh, yeah.
These foundation models are what have changed the adoption curve. And now you see AI being adopted everywhere. And the thing for us to understand is where this is, where it fits in, and make sure that we can reap the benefits from all of this technology.
So AI has
If
been
you like this
around
video and want to see
since
more like
the
it, please like and
50s.
subscribe.
Why are you still
If you have
talking?
any questions or want to share your thoughts about this topic,
Why is everyone spiraling over
I don't
YouTube
want
banning ad
ads.
blockers? Like, chill guys, just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension.
Hey friend, I have been using ChatGPT ever
Alright, I figured we'd do a little bit of a more interesting one since the other ones are really nerdy things. ChatGPT tricks. So, see this nerdy dude do some talking, I guess.
single day for
you.
the past 2 years. And in this video, I want to share with you my 3 favorite ways of using ChatGPT to be more productive. So for those who don't know me, my name is Pascal and I'm an IT consultant based in the Netherlands. So the first way that I use ChatGPT is summarization. In my job as an IT consultant, it is very important to stay ahead of the game. You really need to dive into new technologies, you need to read articles, and you need to stay up to date with the latest research. It is so difficult to do all that while you're also helping clients. So I found a way to quickly get all the information in a fraction of the time. So let me show you how I do that. So I usually go on these kind of websites to find research articles, but I don't really have the time to read through all of them. So what I do is when I find an article that I think is interesting, and usually I get around 5 articles or so, simply open up the HTML experimental version, so you get the web version, and then copy the URL, and then open up ChatGPT, and then use the following prompt. Read the following research paper, and then you paste in the URL. Tell me the main reason why I should read it, and then proceed to write a...
See, I'm gonna write these down. I probably could just do what this guy's doing and use ChatGPT to, you know, summarize it or something, but not doing that. See, these streams I'm gonna do, some of them are gonna be me pretty much just ignoring you and learning myself. And then I have plans for provide your answers in English. Well, yeah, they're gonna be in English profile. But I have plans to do some other type of stuff where I'm doing some work and I can actually talk more and I'm not listening as much and I'm more active.
summary in 3 simple paragraphs. Provide your answers in English, and if you want to have a different language, then you can specify the language over here. Create a short glossary underneath the article with the most different.
Yeah, I couldn't see that one.
difficult words. When I let ChatGPT include a glossary, it makes it much easier to understand. So let's just hit enter. And as you can see, ChatGPT found the article and then just continue to write 1, 2, 3 short paragraphs. And then it also included a glossary. So it basically says what are diffusion models a class of generative models that learn to produce data by reversing the fusion process. Well, yeah. So this works for me as an IT consultant, but this can be applied to many different industries. For example, in healthcare, where a health practitioner needs to do administration, they need to help clients. And it's also expected of them to stay up to date with the latest research. This way, you can actually read multiple articles in the time that it took to read just one. Alright, so now it's time for use case number 2, and that is something that I call transformative languages. As you know, ChatGPT is based on a large language model. When we refer to the language part, we don't only mean English, Spanish, French, and whatever language you can come up with. There are also languages, let's say computer languages, that you can use in ChatGPT. And with these transformative languages, you can push ChatGPT's output way past just boring text and images. You can create diagrams, you can create applications, and even web pages. Let me show you. So in this example, I basically asked ChatGPT to create a simple web page in HTML that allows me to play a game of Minesweeper. And within less than a few seconds, it came up with this code. And then I just copied this code, installed and pasted it into a code editor, and then just open up the website. And as you can see, I have a fully functioning game of Minesweeper. I can just click over here and game over. Yeah, pretty much like how I remembered playing as a kid. And of course, I don't make games on a daily basis, but I use that to create tools, just like the flashcard tool you see in my website. So that's HTML. But one of my favorite transformative languages is called Mermaid. And with Mermaid, you can actually create diagrams. So let's say that I am working on a project plan and I need to include a Gantt chart. Usually, I would just open up Excel and start playing around to create a Gantt chart. But now I just use ChatGPT. Let's open it up and use the following prompt. Create a Gantt chart of a website and branding rollout plan. Create this using the Mermaid syntax. And then we get the Mermaid syntax back. If you will paste this in your project plan, then people will look at you like you're weird. So in order to change that, let's just copy this code and then paste it into an editor that will actually transform this code into a working diagram. Copy the code, then go to draw.io, click on Arrange, Insert, and then Advanced, and then on Mermaid, and then remove what is there, and then paste in the code. And now click on Insert. Now we have our finished Gantt chart. Here you have the different phases: research and planning, design phase, development phase, and testing and launch. Over here we have a timeline, and here are all the tasks that happen over the course of time. And of course, when this displays not the correct timings, or maybe not the correct phases or tasks that you want to be included, just simply double click and then just change it over here. You can change the duration, you can change the tasks, and you can change the phases as well. So yeah, that saves a lot of time. And with Mermaid, you can actually create all sorts of diagrams. And I already have a video on that, which you can check over here. But please do so after I have told you about my third favorite way of using ChatGPT, and that is personas.
Great, this guy lives multiple lives or something.
And with personas, you can actually ask ChatGPT to pretend to be a specific person or act as a role. Okay. And the persona that I'm using a lot is asking ChatGPT to act as a critic. Because I don't like ChatGPT always agreeing with me. I want to know how I can improve. So let me show you just a fun way on how to test that. So in this scenario, Terry, my colleague, stole my sandwich from the company fridge. So I asked ChatGPT, hey ChatGPT, act as a critic, tell me what I can improve and why in the following response to Terry. I give it some context. Terry stole my sandwich from the company fridge and I want to send him an email, but don't come across as aggressive. This is my email so far. Terry, you stole my sandwich again. Why don't you just buy your own? It's mine, okay? I'm going to report you to your boss if you do it again. And what is really cool is that ChatGPT came back with a response. The response from ChatGPT is that my email is direct, but it may come across as overly confrontational. And normally ChatGPT just goes ahead and provides you with a new email, but in this case I can actually learn how to improve it. It says what I need to improve, so the tone, the clarity and the outcome focus, and also why these improvements matter. And then creates a revised email. I noticed that my sandwich was missing from the fridge again, and I suspect that there may have been some confusion. It has been happening a few times now, and I appreciate it if you could ensure this doesn't happen again. I bring my food with the expectation it will still be there when I need it.
Little nerd.
This is pretty good. I think ChatGPT had some political training. When someone sends you an angry email, you don't want to escalate the situation. So by using ChatGPT, you can de-escalate and still get what you want. And this of course also works when you are writing a project plan and ask ChatGPT to act as a critic. Or in this scenario where I asked ChatGPT to create a 2-day travel itinerary for Paris. So ChatGPT came back with a 2-day travel plan, but I felt that this was very tourist-like. So I asked ChatGPT to act as a critic from Paris and look at this plan and tell me what to improve and why. So I used the following prompt: act as a Parisian critic, look at the plan and tell me what should be improved and why. And it says, ah, mon ami, let me put on my Parisian critic hat. Always funny when ChatGPT is so sassy. And then it proceeds with the travel plan. And then within each of the elements that were generated before, ChatGPT now says that you can do this, but actually there's a lesser known gem, like for example Thérèse au Jardin. And if I Google that one, then you will actually see that it is away from the tourist hubs. So yeah, nice ChatGPT. And other examples of personas include acting as a business coach to give you tips on your business ideas, or asking ChatGPT to act as a business analyst to really find out the root cause of a problem. And there you have it, my 3 favorite ways on using ChatGPT. Now, I know that was a lot to take in. And if you don't have the time to try this out right now,
don't care. Do not care what the rest of what you have to say is. Brutally honest. All right. It's day 1 of this. Do more of this in the future. Maybe do something more interactive in the future, so I'm not as boring. But that's all I got today. So thank you guys for tuning in.